After working inside multiple agencies at the 30K, 50K, and even 100K a month level, I've noticed the same problem show up every single time. It's rarely ads, it's rarely sales, and it's almost never effort. It's structure. And what I've seen over and over again is agencies doing good work with good clients, but running everything on top of a Google Sheets. And it's usually supported by make automations that were never designed to handle how an agency actually operates. They might work at first, but they're not built for the reality of an agency once things really start scaling. So yeah, that's what I've been building for multiple of my clients. It's what I call the centralized agency control center. It's not a tool, it's not a dashboard, but a backend system where the agency actually lives. And at the core of this system is a very simple idea or principle. Everything ties back to the same client, not as separate rows in a Google Sheets, not as like duplicated across multiple tools and kept in sync with automations, but as one single client everything connects to. By that I mean the client details, the onboarding status, the sales data, ad performance data across all channels, the call center data from Go High Level, the tasks and projects and internal notes. It's really everything. So it's all related to the same underlying entity, and while that might seem pretty obvious, it's not the reality of working with an agency like in a spreadsheets, because sheets are flat and agencies are not. And once your data isn't connected, you start copying it and duplicating it, and the moment you copy data like manually through make automations, you introduce manual work, inconsistency and confusion everywhere, and that's where things slowly start falling apart. One agency I worked with had reached that exact point. They didn't have bad data, or actually they did, but that's not the point here. They had too much disconnected data. Client lists in one place, sales tracking in another, and appointments, show-up rates, and closing rates tracked somewhere else. B2B and B2C performance tracked differently in like many different Google Sheets. Ad metrics pulled manually or through simple automations. Onboarding handled by memory by an EA or spread across 4 different Monday boards. Whenever the owner needed clarity, it meant jumping between different tools, reconciling numbers, checking whether automations had run, trying to decide like which versions was the correct one. And if you can't trust the data, you can't, in my opinion at least, trust the decisions that come from it. So instead of fixing the symptoms, we kind of rebuilt the whole foundation. So the first thing was defining what actually matters operationally. Not what looks good in a demo, not what's trendy or AI, just what the agency actually needs to function on a normal Tuesday morning. And from there, everything was designed around one central database, not because databases are like fancy at all, but because they're built for related data and not different rows in a spreadsheet. And when a new client is created, it happens only once actually. That record then becomes the anchor point for everything that follows. Onboarding steps attached to it, the ad accounts attached to it, sales and call data attached to it, including like appointments booked, show-up rates, closing rates, cost per booked appointment, like all these metrics, task performance history, reporting, all of it references to the same exact client. So that means no duplication, no manual syncing between Google Sheets, and no make automations trying to keep things aligned. No which one is the correct one. So the onboarding, I think, is a good example of where this matters. Instead of manually setting things up across multiple tools, onboarding becomes a structured flow tied to the same client record. You always know where a client is in the process, what's completed, what's missing, and whether it's handled by an EA or client sales rep, or someone internal. And if something breaks, you can see exactly where, because the logic becomes visible in the database. And that's not by accident, because to be honest, this didn't quite come out perfect the first time. I didn't sit once and design the right structure. I built out versions that looked good but broke on the real usage, and I had clients that got confused. I had edge cases that I didn't anticipate at first. And then I spent hundreds of hours inside real agencies fixing things that I'd already built. And that's actually where the system comes from. Not from theory, not from someone's templates that I copied, but repeatedly watching what breaks in an agency when an agency is under pressure. And then just kind of redesigning around that and iterating along the way. And that's why this system is deliberately simple. There's no fragile automations layered on top of unclear processes. The logic comes first, and then the automations just follows it, kind of. And performance tracking works the same way every time. Ad data flows in and is tied directly to the client. Sales and call center data is tracked in the same place. Appointments show up, all these metrics. They're calculated from actual activity, not reported numbers, and compensation like salary and commissions are calculated the same way for everyone. And that removes opinions from the equation, I think. You're no longer discussing what feels right, or you're just looking at what actually happened. And that shift alone changes how agencies operate internally. Because the same principle applies to the team. Employees live in the same system. Clients, sales rep, EAs, internal operators, media buyers, the worked hours, salary logic, and commission structures are all there. It doesn't need to be cutting edge because it needs to be maintainable for an agency owner. If the owner disappears for a week, the system still runs, and if someone new joins the team, they can understand it. If something breaks, it can be fixed without rebuilding everything from scratch. That's usually where a spreadsheet-based setups collapse, because they work until the person who built it stops holding everything together manually. At the top level, everything rolls into a small number of dashboards. Not dozens, not one per tool, just views that reflect actual performance data. Which clients are performing, which ones need attention, and where are kind of the bottlenecks forming. And that's not what's happening last month, it's what's happening right now. Because control doesn't come from having more tools, it comes from having real structure. Before this system, my client's agency was constantly reacting and fixing everything, manually holding things together, double checking, reconciling numbers, and afterwards building this, the business felt stable. Not because it was simpler, but because the complexity was handled by the system and not the people. I don't know why this seems so obvious to me, but I hope it does to you as well. That's the real difference between a spreadsheets and a proper backend. Spreadsheets help you start, databases help you scale. And this setup doesn't rely on AI, or it doesn't need flashy features, and it doesn't try to impress anyone. It's built to run, to be trusted, and to grow with the agency instead of breaking under it. Yeah, I think it's just kind of the opposite of running an agency in a Google Sheets, because it's what the centralized agency control center is. It's like running your agency on a proper backend that works. If you are running an agency and this way of thinking resonates, here are 2 ways to continue. If you want to see these systems, how they actually build out, the structure, the logic, and how everything is connected, I share a lot of that inside my school group, and that's where I break it all down, like real setups. I answer questions, and I give it all away, my templates and my blueprints. So yeah, I'll leave a link below. And if you're at the point where you want actual help designing or implementing something like this for your own agency, you can always book a call with me directly on my website. Also, I'll leave a link below. So yeah, I think either way, my advice to you is the same. Build a backend you can trust, so you're not spending your precious time holding things together manually. I think that's it for this one.